Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. During this holy season of Lent, the Church provides so many beautiful readings, rich in so many details, and filled with the mercy and forgiveness of God as we prepare ourselves to celebrate the glorious feast of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. And certainly this weekend is no exception. We heard in the first reading from Isaiah how God was inviting his people not to think about the things of the past, the mighty deeds that he accomplished in their midst, but to focus on the fact that he was doing something new and preparing the way and offering something new for them to encounter. And what is that newness that he's offering through the prophecy in Isaiah? We find that, of course, in our gospel, in the person of Jesus Christ, the Lord and Savior of us all. And what a dramatic gospel passage we have today. It's more something we might find in the other in the other gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and the synoptics. It's something a little bit different for John to have recorded, but here it is. It is a gospel about forgiveness and mercy and bringing forth the peace of God and dissipating that kind of scapegoating mentality that so often afflicts human nature. But let's begin with the very first opening, where St. John tells us that, I'm looking at the wrong page, thinking, that doesn't look right to me. Where John talks about the fact that Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, but early in the morning, he arrived again in the temple area. There's a very important note there that the early Jewish converts would not have missed, and that is, in the Old Testament, the Shekinah, the cloud that led the people through the desert, the fire at night and the cloud during the day, that led them for 40 years through the desert. After the temple, the first temple was built in Jerusalem, we are told that Shekinah, the glory of God, descended upon the temple. However, in Ezekiel, we find out that the people had sinned so badly and the corruption was so terrible in the temple that the Shekinah, the glory of God, lifted from the temple and it went eastward. It went eastward over the Mount of Olives. Even after the exile is over, the people come back into Jerusalem, they rebuild the temple, and they rededicate it. There is no recording that the glory of God, that Shekinah, came back to the temple. That is, until Jesus. Jesus, who is God himself. Jesus is that Shekinah, the glory of God, who comes to the temple. And what is it that was to happen in the temple? It was the place for people to come and encounter God, to worship God, but to atone for their sins, so that the misery of sinfulness could meet the mercy of God. And it is here that this gospel passage we've just listened to takes place. The Pharisees have brought a woman, a sinful woman, somebody caught in adultery, and placed her in front of everybody, placed her in front of Jesus. They do so because they're looking for a scapegoat. They're looking for somehow to confront Jesus, to kind of have one of those gotcha moments with Jesus. And what does Jesus do? He bends down and he writes something in the dirt. And we have no idea what he was writing. It wasn't recorded, but it's the only time in any of the scriptures, the Gospels, that we have a record that Jesus actually wrote something. And of course, the persistence of the crowd, the intensity, the ferocity, their anger, their upsetment, their desire to bring forth violence continues to be what motivates them to keep asking Jesus what he thinks. What does he have to say? And of course, when he stands up, he gives that one-liner that is indeed the most, maybe we could say almost one of the most important lines in the scriptures. Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. And so what Jesus has done is to dissipate the emotion of the scapegoating crowd, to dissipate the anxiety and the attention, the emotional intensity that they were experiencing. And we hear that one by one, beginning with the eldest, they dropped their stones and they went away. He dissipates that crowd. He brings forth an end to that sense of emotional violence, that emotional, gotcha type of thing. And he's left alone with the woman, the sinful woman. And what does he say to her? Neither do I condemn you. Go, and from now on, do not sin anymore. Jesus does not wipe her sin under the carpet. He confronts the sin. He accepts the fact that she has sinned, but he accepts her as a child of God and offers her mercy and forgiveness and tells her to go forth and to sin no more. And so the misery of sin meets the mercy of God in the temple area. God offers to you and I the same mercy. We have to admit the fact that we are sinful people. And every one of us in this room and throughout the entire world has sins to bring to God. God meets us with his mercy. In the sacrament of confession, he offers to us his mercy, his forgiveness, and his healing to set us free. And as we come to him, as we open our hearts and souls to him, as we allow his grace to enter into the depths of our being, to strengthen and to renew us, he makes us new, and he sends us forth so that we can be his light to our brothers and sisters, that we can be instruments to dissipate any kind of scapegoating mob scene that might take place in our world, that we can bring others to that sacrament of Christ so that they can experience from Christ his mercy and his healing. As we continue our Lenten journey, as was mentioned before Mass, this Tuesday we'll have extra priests here for the celebration of confession. We have a 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock time frame, and then once again at 7 o'clock at night with the extra priest. Come and let the Lord touch you deeply with his mercy and with his love.